Um,
What's up, man?
Nothing much. Look at all those big bass in the background, dude. Even
I
on a
mean,
tear, dude.
yeah, it's been fun, dude.
um, so welcome to Cast and Crank podcast. It's Josh Jones, right?
Yes.
Okay. Um, I noticed Josh on Instagram lurking like everyone else, and I saw you pulling like 15, 17s out of what lake is it?
OH Ivy has been the main one.
Okay. And what I guess talk about where you grew up. Where'd you kind of grow up at?
I've been all over. I grew up in southern Arkansas. I graduated high school in Kiefer, Oklahoma, right here outside of Tulsa. So, yeah, man. I mean, I've been to Phoenix, to Chicago. I've been all over, but I kind of grew up in Arkansas and graduated here in Northeast Oklahoma.
So you kind of cut your teeth fishing locally to Arkansas. What are some of the lakes you kind of
Yeah,
like learned on?
man, we grew up on the Oxbows, right off the Washita River. Georgia's Anderson Tate, all the way down to Perigee, English Bead. No one really even knows where those are. Those are in the middle. A lot of them you need 4-wheel drive to get to, and it's kind of the flat bottom with the paddle type of deal, you know. So we would just go to catch 2 and 3 pounders to eat and head home. I never expected I would have a wall full of bass. 8 pound where I came from were huge. I actually have one here that's right at 7 3/4 pounds I caught when I was 6, and that was like the biggest bass anyone's ever seen. So
in that area, that's like a nice bass in that area.
yeah, and that was the one bass that I can remember us not actually eating.
That's what I was going to ask you. I'm like, did you eat that one?
No, dude.
You know what's crazy? The crazy thing is, like, on the West Coast, so frowned upon to eat largemouth. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Like, to me, it's like, I get if it's a breeder and it's huge and we're going to put it back. But if you kill some bass, I mean, you pay for your license. So, you should be able to do that.
I had a meeting with the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife today, and they're like trying to get people to eat fish because there's too many small ones. And our whole lives, for the most part, we've been told, don't eat bass, don't eat bass, don't eat bass. And now they're like saying we need to eat all these bass, not saying take the biggest fish out of the lake, but they're wanting to eat, 12 to 16-inch fish, I think. I mean, and I just don't want to mess with them. If I'm going to eat fish, it's going to be a crappie. You know what I mean?
See, I don't eat any. The only thing I eat is stripers. I'll eat stripers, and that's about it. And everything else is saltwater.
Yeah. Well, we're not that fortunate here in Oklahoma. We got some stripers.
That's cool. So do you try to be involved with kind of like the fishery somewhat where you live?
Man, not really. I kind of called them out. So I don't even have really a big following on Instagram. My main following's on Facebook.
Okay.
I've kind of called them out over time about basically how they suck at their job. And, it got a lot of attention because of how many people it reached. And they wanted to have a meeting, and I thought it was genuine. They were like, we want to know how you can do better and this and that. And I went down there and met with them today for hours. That a lot of nice people, and they're trying their best with what they have. But it was just them grilling me the whole time, basically saying they didn't straight up say they don't want me to bash them anymore. But that's exactly what I was there for them to show me how well they're doing. Because I've been catching all these giant fish in Texas. Most of them I've caught right at 70 double digits in the last 2 years, and probably 40 of them came from Texas, in the last year.
So how far is Oklahoma from Texas?
I mean, it borders Texas, but the lakes I've been fishing from my house is 7 hours.
Are you living in Texas and in Oklahoma at the same time?
I mean, I got a family here. My house is here in Oklahoma, but I mean, I've been just traveling back and forth for the most part, and it sucks because I got a kid. But damn, man, I mean, when you catch 15 pounders in Texas, are you going to stay in Oklahoma and catch 7 pounders, And I've caught some double digits here, but it ain't nothing like Texas. No one's going to want to travel here to fish. You know what I mean?
So when did you, I guess this is the big thing for me is you're doing a lot of this on jigs, not just on swim baits, right? Do you really throw swim baits?
And I don't. I'm getting into the swim bait game. I'm really horrible at swim baiting. I'll be honest. I want to join the cool kids club. I want to. I've tried to throw swim baits. I'm just not good at it. I mean, I had a couple opportunities at 13 plus caliber fish, 13-pound plus, and I missed them both on swim baits. My style of swim bait's like a 3.2, just a little head. But I've been throwing some 8-inch swim baits with some glide baits, but I'm just not good. I mean, I'll be honest with you.
Well, the thing that caught my attention when I kind of saw what you're doing is a lot of the guys that are catching the really big fish are throwing swim baits, but you're the kind of black sheep that's throwing jigs and I don't know, A-rigs or whatever else it might be.
Here in the fish's mouth. Let's see if I got another one. I don't have another one. Here, I'll get it real quick and I'll show you a lot of these fish on. Ow. So this is the exact bait. I got my lawn chair here upstairs. This is the exact bait I caught a 15-10 on. No trailer at all. It's just a divine swim bait or swim jig by 6 cents.
No trailer,
dude. No. So I don't even know the number. I would be a fool to even try to guess, but I'm just going to throw out a number. I've caught just since June, probably 60 or 75 bass over 8 pounds on this. I mean, this has been my most consistent bait actually since May. No trailer. I cut the weed guard off because I'm using forward facing sonar. You're not going to get hung up. I have not lost a single swim jig. So I got a 15-10 I caught in December. I've never lost a swim jig in my life. So I threw this thing another probably 3 weeks and I was fishing with my buddy. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should keep this thing. It's kind of special. It caught a giant bass. And he's like, yeah, you probably should. So I retired it because I didn't want to lose it.
What gave you the idea? So like, I guess first, what made you want to travel to this lake to catch the big fish?
So Ben Milliken found it last February. So I went down there in February because, I was kind of friends with all those guys. And I ended up catching 2 sharelunkers last year, which were over 13 pounds. I had, let's see, in 8 days, what was it? I lost count. I caught several. And in 8 days, I caught over 20 double digits. I caught a 15-40, a 13-20, a 12-2, 9 more over 11, and some more 10s in 8 days. And that was this uncharted territory where no one's fished, and the lake's not that good anymore. But I did
pressure, I'm sure, right? But just too many people now.
Yeah, man, lots of pressure. And I don't know necessarily. I mean, I don't even know. I think the fish are definitely doing stuff different than they did last year. They were schooled up. You could find 100 in one spot, but it ain't like that now. They're just scattered out. But yeah, I ended up. So I had a good spring. Summer went. I fished it a lot. It sucked. Fall, it kind of sucked. And then I was bored one December day, and I called my buddy up in Texas. I said, dude, you want to go to Ivy? And he said, yeah, man, I'll meet you there. We had a day and a half and went down there and caught a 15-pounder, dude. I mean, that lake is just something special. It's the best lake in the world outside of California for catching big bass, for sure.
So when you started going down there to catch the bass, were you kind of undergunned on gear? Because you're probably used to catching 8s or 7s or 10s and 15s.
So I went down there. So Milliken texted me and it's like, dude, we just had an epic day. I said, okay, I'm on my way. I went down there the next day. I didn't think I was going to catch a big bass. I'm used to these 8, 9, 10 pounders here in Oklahoma. So I went down there and 5 minutes into it, I had 2 8-pounders. So I was like, dude, this place is nuts. I'm taking pictures of 8s. I'm like, 8-pounders big. And then probably 30 minutes into my day, I got a phone call and I answered it and I was on the phone. And at the same time, I hooked a bass and I didn't think it was that big. Sometimes they don't fight in the winter. And it got to the side of the boat and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, it's over 13 pounds. It got off. And I was like, So I was heartbroken, dude. I was like, that was the one fish of my life. I screwed it up. It was horrible. I actually ran out of gas. So I had to leave or troll back, go get gas. I came back, and literally 30 minutes later, I caught a 13-pounder. So I should have had 2 13s that day. That first one could have been 14. I mean, it was huge. So then I was like, oh, wow, this place is epic. And then just went on a tear catching giant bass. Like I said, it was like 20 or 25 bass over 10 pounds in 8 days. I mean, it was like the most epic week of my life. I mean, that's some Butch Brown stuff,
What's your big bag?
I've had 5 50-pound stringers. My biggest is 54.
Damn.
So, which is pretty good size, but there's 60-pound potential out there.
So a lot of this is on that swim jig.
No,
or were you learning how to are you a really good jig fisherman? Is that your deal? Like you love jig fishing?
Those fish were on A rigs.
Okay.
Those 50-pound stringers was on a little lake here in Oklahoma. This bait, and I've never even told this story. So I found this bait. So I'm sponsored by 6 Cents. I was like, okay, I got to go get some content. I got to go catch some fish. I found some fish the night before, and I caught them on a spoon. They were on this drop, and there had to be 100 of them or more. There's probably 200 or 300. So I go there the next day. I'm prepared. I got my video, my GoPros. I can't catch them. They're there. I can't catch them. I threw drop shots, Carolina rigs, spoons, crankbaits, spinner baits, little Georges, you name it. I threw it. Okay. So I said, man, I'd never used a swim jig in my life, only at night. So I'm a crappie fisherman. Yeah, you guys probably don't crappie fish.
We do a little bit of it, not much, but there's tournaments, some small ones. I think they're up north more.
Yeah, Clear Lake. So I found a crappie jig, a 1/4 ounce head with a 2/0 hook, and I was like, man, I'm gonna try this. Started whacking them, dude. Caught an 8-pounder, caught 80, something stupid. So I don't know if it was that same day. It wasn't. I came home and I was like, I got to find something that I can catch these on. And I rummaged around in my box and I found a swim jig, and I was like, that's not much smaller than the crappie jig. I'm like, dude, that's literally the same size as the crappie jig. And when it's going through the water, it's like that,
Yeah.
So it's profile. I'd always use these with trailers. So the trailer was kind of defeating the purpose of trying to get that small profile. I went back, rest is history, dude. I caught tons of 8-pounder. I mean, dude.
So were you sponsored at with 6 Cents at the time?
Yes. So that's why I was like, this crappie bait's not going to help them at all. Plus, I was like, dude, I'm about to win every tournament in America on this crappie bait. I was like, I'm going to keep it a secret. I'm not going to say nothing. And anyways, yeah, that was short-lived. I don't even know how I caught them that day, but I discovered the swim jig, and I straight pounded them, dude. All here in Oklahoma, all summer long. I caught my first double digit in the summer. I'd never done that before. I'd always caught them in the winter.
Yeah.
Caught numerous 9s and 8s. And, I mean, it was pretty epic. Got most of them on video. So yeah, man, I was trying to just, for so long, all I heard was, and I never really videoed my catches last year. Wait. Yeah, it was last year, 2021. I never really videoed. So I had this stigma that I'm out here snagging all these fish on A-rigs,
Mm-hmm.
And then started showing videos, just hammering them on the swim jig with no trailer. Yeah, I'm blowing people's minds,
Did you get a lot of crap for that? Like people thought you're just dropping A-rigs on their heads and kind of snagging?
Yeah, and they tried to discredit what I did because I'm using forward-facing sonar with an Alabama rig. I heard that for a while. And that 1510 was like a huge weight off my shoulders because I had it on video. The swim jig was in its mouth. Man, even the game wardens, the wildlife department in Texas was accusing me of snagging.
No way.
I swear. Like because what I did, had never been done before,
So you're dropping the A-rigs on these fish, kind of
I mean,
like how deep are you going?
well, I caught a 13 pounder in 80 foot of water, 40 foot down, and I've caught them in 15 foot of water. I mean, there's just, you never know where they're going to be. And that's something else, man. I kind of pioneered the forward facing sonar, at least in my area, for crappie. And these crappie are just out in the middle of the lake, just random. I just won a crappie tournament last week on Lake Fort. These crappie are just wherever. And over the years of fishing, I just always saw these bass. And one day I was laying in bed and I was like, man, I'm going to go try that bass. I'm going to go bass fishing. And I went out.
So real quick, you're not you're a crappie fisherman. Would you consider yourself more of a crappie fisherman than a largemouth?
I was bass fishing my whole life, and I'm 34 years old. Probably when I was 24, I got real hung up on the crappie, and I just loved crappie fishing. That's all I did was crappie fish for years. And then forward facing sonar came out 2015. I was a beta tester for Garmin. So I was one of the first ones that had ever used it. No one knew what they were doing. I mean, the Garmin guy, I remember the day he gave it to me. He gave me this and he's like, hey, this is live sonar. And I was like, what do you want me to do with it? And I swear to God, his words were, I don't know. You'll figure it out. Like, I was like one of the first to ever get it. So I'm out here trying to figure it out, learning it, whatever. I learned it for crappie, dude. I made a name for myself crappie fishing. I went out, started fishing some tournaments. I was winning every single tournament I entered. And people started finally taking me serious. Went out, won numerous national events, national championship. And I just got bored with it because all the people hating, and I'm just like, dude, I'm going bass fishing. Went out bass fishing, and dude, it's just been, epic. I don't even have it. I bet I've caught 400, maybe 500 bass over 8 pounds the last 2 years.
So how does the crappie play into the whole, I guess more, how does the forward facing sonar, because since you're kind of like one of the first beta testers of it, how did that change the game when you first got it? And how was it reading the structure? Like, break that down a little.
So I didn't have an instruction manual. I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have nothing. I had to find out how to use it the hard way, staring at the screen for hours and hours and hours. And for the first, couple years, I even tried to bass fish with it. And every single bass I saw just followed the bait. And I was just like, dude, this ain't bass. You ain't going to catch a bass because they all follow. And then the crappie thing just blew up, man. And here in the Midwest, everyone was just forward facing sonar with crappie, even the professional bass anglers were calling it crappie scope. You can go back. I'm sure tons and tons of views. They call it crappie scope because they really didn't think it was useful. And then that one day, man, I was just laying in bed and I just said, I'm tired of crappie. So many haters, so much drama. And I was like, dude, I'm going bass fishing. So I went bass fishing to a local lake by the house. And I was running a GoPro the first day I ever did it. I turned the GoPro on. I backed in the water. I pulled my truck up. I came back to the boat. I went to the very first tree I saw and caught an 8-pounder. I stopped the GoPro. And from the moment I backed the boat in the water to the moment I caught that 8-pounder was less than 5 minutes. So I was like, hooked.
That's a game changer as well, too. I know a lot of, I talked to Ben and he kind of likes the live scope for at bats. That's what he said. He's like, the most at bats he can get. Now, guys down here that fish the big bait will turn it off because it's the pressure. Do you see that live scope affecting the fish in any way?
No, man. And now I'm using active target. But I haven't necessarily. I think pressure affects it, like not necessarily the boat, but those fish seeing the same baits over and over and over. That's definitely affected it. When I first started doing this, I can say with 100% confidence, no one else in America was doing it. Nobody. Mm-hmm. Literally every single fish I threw that A-rig in front of, I caught.
When you're doing the A-rig deal, you're dropping them deep. When did you start doing that too? If you don't mind me asking, because I I guess a side note from what we do for sand bass over here is what you're doing, but the people have been doing it.
So the fish I was catching, really, I was catching some shallow, I was catching some deep, but most of these fish never saw baits. I was fishing in mainly lakes with just standing timber just everywhere. No one in history of these lakes has thrown an A-rig. And I was finding these fish that were virgins to A-rigs, man. I went out one day and I had a real job at one time. I went after work. I worked all day. I went for 3 hours after work and I caught 9 bass over 8 pounds in 3 hours. And every single fish I saw, I caught. That ain't like that anymore, dude. You might catch 1 out of 20, because these fish, they just get educated. I mean, it sucks. I mean, people can say it's going to ruin fishing, but it's not, because you're just going to have to fake these fish out. You're going to have to learn how to actually catch these things. That's how I figured this out. They wouldn't hit an A-rig. I threw an A-rig at them. Granted, it was May when I figured that out, but it's definitely a depressing feeling when you're looking at 200 bass and they won't eat. They'll follow. There would be 20 of them follow all the way to the boat, but they wouldn't eat until I figured out, hey, this. And you wouldn't catch all of them. I mean, you would catch a lot of them. A lot more than anything else.
How long did that A-rig bite last for you? And when did you realize, hey, I got to change some stuff up?
So the first couple of years I could fish A-rig until April here in Oklahoma. This year, the A-rig bite in Texas lasted, man, from probably late January is when it started to very early March. So it lasted a good 30 to 40 days. It wasn't as good as it was the year before. The year before, I mean, but more people are throwing it and there's A-rigs on every corner, on every boat. I mean, which is fine, but it has made fishing harder.
We did the same thing. So I do a lot of calico and sand bass fishing, which is kind of like the saltwater, bass fishing. So our big ones are like a 17 is going to be like a 10-pound calico. 16, that'd be the comparison. If you can catch a 10-pound calico, that's like the one. But we do that on the stones out here. So they'll be, we'll come up to some 90-foot stones and we'll drop the A-rigs down and just, wait for it to hit the bottom, burn them back up. And the guy that showed me has been doing it for 6 years, it's a crazy thing. And that's why when I heard you talking about it, I'm like, I know what he's doing, like I get it.
Where are you from?
California.
What part?
It's Orange County.
Oh yeah. Hey, my wife's from Orange County. She's from Laguna, man.
Oh, really? I'm from I live in Buena Park. So it's Laguna's about 35 minutes away from me, not too far. But I mean, I fish up and down that coast constantly, just for my loves calico. So I do a lot. I mean, I still fish, green bass, but calico is my deal. But what kind of A-rigs were you using? And do you have a preference on how they're rigged, how long the arms are? Heads?
I was just well, now there's a 6 cents prototype I use this year, but for the last couple of years, I was using the Shane's baits, 8 blades. It had 4 arms and then a middle arm, so 5 total.
Can you do 5 hooks over there?
We can do 5. You guys only got 3, right?
Yeah. Well, not in the salt. Salt, we can do 5.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do 5, but really all you need is 3 because the other 2 always get hung up in the side of the fish and stuff. And I can see why people think people snag them. But if you can snag bass, you're doing something special because I'm telling you, it's easier to just catch them than it is to snag them. Granted, I haven't ever tried, but we have this fish here in Oklahoma called a paddlefish, spoonbill. They get like 140 pounds and you can literally legally snag them. I mean, it's cool. It really is. It's like a big saltwater fish. And you got to throw a treble hook at them. So I know exactly how hard it is snagging these fish because these fish are sometimes 7 foot long and it takes you 100 tries to hook a 7 foot long fish. So
makes sense. So were you putting out videos or did people start giving you shit when you just started putting pictures up? Because from talking to you right now, I feel like you felt like you had to clear your name a little bit because people were saying, hey dude, this guy's snagging.
I didn't necessarily feel like I needed to, but it was nice to actually get some video out catching. I caught a 14 pounder on video. I caught a 15 pounder on video. That not only helps me, helps my sponsors, but it helps these other people. Like, hey, they can't, even though that I know the video's out there, they still probably accuse me of snagging, but they, now you can see on the forums, people actually standing up for me when someone accuses me of doing something shady. They can be like, hey, this video like shows he's not, which I don't even care about all that stuff. But when the law gets involved and when, they're like legit thinking you're snagging them.
Did you have like the Texas, like the DFG come and go, hey, you snagging these fish?
So one of them, I got checked by a couple game wardens in Texas, and then 30 minutes later, a couple other game wardens showed up, and I said, "Man, your buddies just checked me. I'm good." And they're like, "Well, we need to check you again." And then he insinuated that I'm just over here jerking up and down, and he's like, "Have you been snagging these? All we see is you jerking." And I was like, "No, I mean, I had clients in the boat with me, because I teach people how to do what I'm doing." And anyways, come to find out, the game wardens, or one of them, it was his local lake, and he was mad that I brought all this attention. And it wasn't even me, it was Milliken. And so the guy left, and as he was trolling off in the game warden boat, he says, "You're that Sherlunker guy, aren't you?" And I nodded my head, yeah. And he said, "You see all these boats? Thanks a lot." Like, it was just a bad deal, man.
You and Milliken kind of, I mean, you guys both got put in the limelight because you're catching big fish, number one. Yeah. And you're an out of towner. So they're probably like, this guy's coming, bringing the attention, and they don't like it. Now, do you remember how much attention it brought when you started posting these fish, or your client? I mean, you got a job. That's your job, being a guide. So you got to post something. So did you start seeing the people kind of come in?
And I'm sure Milliken said the same thing. It was a ghost town. Depressing, cabin fever. I'm going to kill myself. This place is like depressing. It went from 0 boats to literally 750 in a week. That's 1 week. I mean, epic. The day that I caught the 15.5 pounder, there had to be 1,000 people on the water. 700 boats. Some boats had 2 people. Some had 3. There had to be 1,000 people on the water, and it was just an absolute shit show. And that's how it is now, which is good for the economy. I love it. Like, I don't care. I'm going to catch them either way. But
how long you been guiding for?
Bass guiding, a couple of years.
Okay.
3 years.
And then crappie, you do crappie, same thing?
I'm kind of retired from the crappie deal.
Did that really, do you feel that it made you feel that salty about it? Like you're done with it? You seem like you're like, man,
but I mean, I make a lot of money bass, like teaching. I get $2,000 a day, and booked up year round if I wanted to. But that's really not, I don't really need to do that. I do it when it's really good, when I can teach people. I had several people catch a giant bass this year. But the crappie thing, it's a little saturated now with the forward-facing sonar. Everyone's a crappie guy. And I'm not salty with it. I still fish tournaments. I still, fish that tournament on Lake Fork last week, hang out with the buddies. We eat a lot of food. We spend a lot of money. Party between us friends,
How does those, I don't know anything. I've never had anyone that's fished crappie on. How does the tournament work?
So you weigh your 7 biggest. Your 7 biggest. Most people, they think crappie tournament. They're like, but I mean, dude, these things can pay a lot of money.
That's my question is, what's the payouts like?
Well, that one last week, we won 10 grand. We won last year. We won $150,000 last year.
So you can make a living off of crappie fishing if you're good at it.
If you're really good, you between tournament fishing and guiding, you can.
Did you have different sponsors for the crappie than you do for the bass?
Man, the crappie industry, there's really no money in it, like from sponsor standpoint. But 6 Cents is coming out with a line of crappie baits, and Dobbins is one of my.
Thanks to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was all a big partnership. I really like those guys over there, and I help them. They help me. We just like it. It's just going to be a good partnership going forward. And Dobbins is from Northern California.
Yeah.
We got my signature series rod coming out, crappie rod.
No way.
Not what you think. Like, I'm using a 14-foot rod. So imagine a 2-pound fish and you hooking it and just swinging it in the boat. I mean, it's different, but I mean,
how many rods can you have out at one time?
I just use one.
Okay.
Just one.
Because I mean, when we see the crappie guys here, there's like, I don't know, it looks like there's 4 rods out, or they have bobbers and all this crap going on. I don't know much about it,
It's a lot of fun. I'm telling you, if you came here to Oklahoma and we went crappie fishing, you'd have a blast.
I love all kinds. I love catfishing. I'll do anything. I just like fishing.
Yeah, no, I am. We can come noodling if you want to come out here.
Have you done that?
Oh, hell yeah. So here's my noodling story. So I've been noodling since I was 14 years old. We used to sneak out and take the car because we just love to fish. So when I was 14, my buddy and I would sneak out at night, take my mom's car all the way to downtown Tulsa, which is like 30 minutes. There's a pedestrian bridge with a low water dam, and you can fish below it for catfish. And you can just slam the catfish, 5 to 20 pounders. So we snuck out one night. We're 14 years old, okay? Took the car downtown Tulsa, had to be midnight. We wade out in the middle of the Arkansas River, big river, and we're fishing. And a homeless guy, and it's in downtown Tulsa. A homeless guy comes out, and he's swimming around the water. And we're like, what is he doing, And now I would be like staying away because he might kill me. But then, and that's not true, but look, we look at him because he's swimming around, and we're like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm noodling. And we're like, this was before it got popular on TV. We're like, what? And he's like, I'll show you. And he had a beard and he had no shirt on. It's the middle of summer. So he's just swimming around the water, and he comes up with like a 5-pounder. And we're like, what? So anyways, we went ahead, we fished, whatever. We went home. Like the next day or 2 days later or whatever, I think we got our parents to drop us off. I don't remember how we got there, but long story short, my buddy tried it and caught a 25-pounder. Okay. And we're young kids. We're like, oh my God. So from that moment on, we were hooked. I mean, I was diehard. Like I am bass fishing now. I used to be diehard noodling. I had 250 holes, man. We would catch 30 plus over 60 pounds a year.
Do you remember when the TV shows came out and all that crap?
Yeah. So some of those guys are my friends.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So, and that's how, I mean, we were all there was a Pauls Valley noodling tournament. And if you ever get bored, there's a documentary. It's called, Okie Noodling. And that was from like the 90s. And that was like my favorite documentary before documentaries were really even cool. And I just started going to those noodling tournaments, back when there were 3 fish limits. And I never won, but I just loved it. And then after the tournament got so popular, then here came the TV shows. And now here came all these pretty little girls, showing their butts.
Yep.
Just exploded. But I can say I've been noodling for 20 years before it was cool,
Did you, this is the shit that scared me. The beavers, snapping turtles. You ever run to any of those?
Man, I mean, I've had one run in with a snapping turtle. I just happened to grab its tail. It wasn't big. And I was laid up in a hole one time, and there was a hole behind me that a beaver, I scared, and it just barreled, and it brushed up against my legs. I mean, it scared the hell out of me. Laid up in a hole, on my belly, and my legs were like I was laying down, and that thing just went across my legs and just scared the hell out of me.
That's sketchy, dude.
Oklahoma has a lot to offer. It really does.
Different ways to kill yourself, right?
Yeah. But doesn't have is 15-pound bass. You know, you got to go to Texas for that.
And where do you think there's any lakes that are closer to you that can sustain that big of a bass? You know, have something that big.
Yeah. In the meeting I had today, and they didn't take me serious at all. Nothing's going to come of it. Nothing's going to happen. But those Southern California lakes, they pound with trout. Why can't we pound our lakes with trout? You know,
not anymore. We don't get them anymore like we did.
That's why, and I knew, and that's why the northern lakes are still, you know, good because they have the native trout and everything. But I was like, man, why can't we just? And they literally laughed at me. They said, "Well, what do you propose?" And I was like, "Well, they mentioned something." I was like, "Let's stock some bait." And they said, "So basically, you just want to feed the fish?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, let's feed." And they asked me what I proposed, and I was like, "Man, how about we just focus on some smaller lakes and just pound them with trout?" And they literally laughed like I was an idiot. I'm like,
yeah,
why am I even here? You know? So,
but do you think that having the smaller amount of fish, too many small fish, is kind of messing up the growth of them?
Man, I don't know. I think if we got enough bait in these lakes, I mean, we got some shad, but we don't have the luxury of native trout. We don't have the hitch. We don't have any of that cool stuff. We just have shad and some bluegill, and we don't even have a lot of bluegill. Some of these lakes have really no shad. So Oklahoma, that we just don't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
We're never going to be Texas. Obviously, California probably doesn't have money if they don't put trout in those lakes anymore.
I think there's just such a disconnect between the DFW, Department of Fish and Game, and the anglers. It's like we lose our coastal, we lose some of our coastline. We have MLPA, so where you can't fish a section of the coast that's amazing, and they cut it out. You know, or we have islands we run to for Calico as well. And there's San Clemente Island, which is about a 2.5 hour drive in a boat with like a 300 on it, a center console, but it's like Disneyland for bass, for Calico bass fishing. You're catching 6.
So why don't they stock trout? Because they don't
stock trout. I don't think because you got a lot of tree huggers and stuff too. I don't know. I mean, the only person that works, there's a couple people that work with them. This guy Stefan on, he works with the DFG. Mike Gilbert does some stuff with the DFG. But I mean, I guess it's just voicing your opinion and getting enough people, but it's hard. You know, everyone, I mean, like you're trying to do something positive. I'm sure other people do. Like Arizona has those crazy golden algae blooms where it kills all the fish. Or the fish is just gone, you know? So it's like, it happens. Different stuff happens in different places, you know? It's horrible.
I feel like they were just looking out for themselves. They didn't really want to care about anything I had to say. They just didn't want to be blasted on social media because then they have to answer to a bunch of questions. That's the vibe I got. I'm sure there's some great people up there, but they're not going to listen to anything I say. And they said it was due to climate, why we can't grow big bass. Okay. And they gave me this sheet. I wish I had the sheet. I might have it in my pocket. No, it's down there. They gave me this sheet, and they're like, and it was all colored and shaded. And they were like, below this line is where the big bass are. Above this line, you can't grow them. So I was like, well, I know for a fact in Northeast Arkansas, crazy place, there's been 3 16-pounders caught, and it's in the pink, the shade. I was like, it's in the pink. And I looked where we were, and I'm like, look, we're in the pink. And he's like, you just don't get it. This is a wide range of temperature. You can go 10 miles in one direction, and it's completely different. This is in millibars and this and that. And he just didn't want to get it. And I'm like, dude, you're the one that gave me this map. Like, the color where that 16-pounder came from was the same shade as the color where we live. So your argument should be 100% invalid. And then not including Lake Allen Henry and Lubbock. And you might have heard about it, might not have. Mm-hmm. Lubbock colder than Tulsa. It's like, dude, they're growing 16-pounders over there. You can't argue with someone who already has their mind made up. You know what I mean? So
next move would be like a board, but I mean, taking the time to set that up with a kid, a guide service. And that's the hard part is you have a voice. I have a voice, you know, to do stuff, but it's like, dude, my wife is already like, another podcast. And they're like, same with you. I'm sure it's like, oh man, you're supposed to be home to hang out with the kids, you know?
I travel a lot, and yeah, she's cool with me being up here right now. But I spent my whole day going to them trying to make something better for them to not do anything, and it's like nothing's gonna happen. They just don't want to be slammed on social media, and it's just whatever, It's not. I'm gonna have to move to Texas for sure.
Do you think so?
Yeah, that's where the money is. That's where the bigger fish are. That's where the majority of my sponsors are. I mean,
are you now since you're gonna have a signature A rig? Are you gonna work with a jig or a swim jig that you're trying to work with 6 cents as well?
So no, they got their swim jigs, and I really like them already. So I am gonna actually have a signature series A rig, so that's cool. But yeah,
have you tried the new? There's a couple different companies that make them. They look like they're mono or floor, like 100-pound or 200-pound A rigs that are like mono.
Mono?
Yeah,
I haven't seen. I've been thinking about it. They have them in saltwater. I know they do. I've seen them.
Well, someone made it, and I think it's they're gonna be pissed. Like no work outdoors or out of work outdoors. I bought one, and they're legit. And there's another company that's coming out with it, and I always wondered, man, I wonder how these things work. Like for the guys that are doing green bass.
I mean, they do it trolling out in saltwater. I know.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just wondering how that type of rig would work. It's always, I guess, like you said, something different, something new. If you can get something new like that and drop it on the heads of the fish, it'd be like that'd be amazing.
And in a couple of years, we're going to need it because we're not going to be able to catch a single fish on an A rig. I don't think.
That's the crazy part is like coming up with new stuff, like something different to use. I think that's why swim baits. A lot of guys will go and we have this different shape, HUD or whatever it might be, but that's a whole nother thing,
And the lifespan of a bass is much greater than really any other fish that we really try to fish for. I mean, these suckers can live 13, 14, 15 years. And I think that's why Lake Fork, Lake Fork, right?
Yeah.
It's not producing hardly anything because these suckers are so educated. They get so many baits thrown at them. You can't catch them. I think they're there. I just don't think you can catch them.
With when you use a live scope or a live target, do you think line size matters a lot?
I just use 20-pound fluoro no matter what.
On everything.
Really?
Well,
I use swim baits and the glide baits. I got 25-pound, but I suck at that anyways. So I don't.
It's cool. It's cool getting your point of view though, because everyone I've had on is always targeting a big fish, and it's always a swim bait. And that's why I'm like, I wanted to have you on because you're not throwing the swim bait for the big fish.
No, I'm throwing obviously an A rig, but the swim jig is my money bait. I mean, that's what I catch the majority of my big fish on. No, I'm not saying the 13, 14, 15 pounders. I've only caught one on it, but all the other ones, the swim jig.
On 20-pound fluoro.
20-pound fluoro, yeah.
Okay.
I'm using 7.4 with a 5-power, 745 Dobbins. And I've heard, and this actually, that Buca burrito,
mm-hmm.
a couple, it's the same hook.
Oh, really?
I've even heard people say, yeah, that 794 that I really like a lot, Dobbins, isn't strong enough for this hook. And I'm using a 744 and a 745 with this hook just fine. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And even with the fluoro, there's a little stretch, but I don't have a hookup ratio problem at all.
What about Real Choice?
I'm just, man, whatever I can get my hands on. I got more Corrados than anything. But yeah, I mean, I'm going broke buying reels.
That's your next sponsor you need, dude.
Dude, that in line. So at Ivy, I was replacing line every day. Okay. I don't care if it was good. I was replacing it because I knew I had a chance at a world record or a state record. And I've emailed several line companies. I got 2 or 3 lines that I like.
Can you talk about the 3 lines that you do like?
I mean, I don't even want to give them any publicity because they won't even respond to an email. Hey,
this is life. I talked to Ben about this. If you getting sponsors is hard. For me, it's the same deal. You know, I have a following, I have a big listenership, you know, it's doing great. But if you're not a certain cut, they really don't want to fuck with you. You know, like
that, like one of the guys, here's what's sad. One of them reached out to me. Okay. He emailed me. Great fish, giants. You're catching giants. You're doing great. Let me know. So I called my buddy and I was like, how do I respond to this? And I responded and I was like, thank you. You know, whatever. And I didn't ask for nothing. Okay. I just put in like how many views I get a month and how many interactions I get before he even had to ask. And I never got a response. I think he was a little shocked. I think straight up he knew, like, hey, you're gonna have to pay me or whatever. I don't know what he thought.
well, what are you looking for though? I mean, you have a family and you have business, so it's like you're looking for a paid sponsor. It's the truth. Like you got to make money.
And I'm a little different because I've done well crappie fishing using a completely different line size, line diameter, different technique. And I've caught some giant largemouth. Like I got two things going for me and I can't get anyone to respond to an email. It's just like, what's going on? And I'm not going to beg. Okay. I would rather just not talk about my own than have to beg for something.
No, so, I'm with you in this. Like I talked to Ben and he kind of changed my mind a little. He goes, you know, you got to invest in yourself. He said, yeah, I'm like, you're right. So now I'm thinking of stuff I can do to profit, to make money off the podcast, because I do have Phoenix as a sponsor and I'm working on some other ones, but you know, that's a whole nother subject is, you know,
and I don't want to owe anyone anything, you know, like people offer me free stuff constantly, but that means I'm going to owe them something, or I'm going to feel like I owe them something.
They're going to want a picture with that hat on or the shirt on or
sometimes I would rather just pay for it, you know?
And that's what you do with the reels pretty much. You kind of just rather.
I own reels. I buy my own line. And I'm telling you, I was using $20 in line a day. You know, I was spending a couple $100 on line a week, you know, between a couple rods. And if I had someone with me, because, and I'm not real anal. Okay. I'll throw the same bait for a year. Like, I don't care about hook sharps, you know, like, but line is something that I'm like, we're going to replace it because we're not going to have it break. You know, if you have a 15-pounder on the end of the line, it's not breaking.
What knot do you like using?
I just use a polymer on everything.
Really? Wow.
But another kicker, I'm anal about knots. I retie all the time.
Every what? Like how many casts do you think?
Like once an hour, you know?
Okay.
I'm checking my line just constantly. I'm doing this. If I feel anything, I'm like, but I've never had a polymer break. I'm throwing it on A-rigs, you know, big 3, 4, 5 ounce, however heavy they are, A-rigs.
Mm-hmm. Are you, do you ever think about doing any tournament fishing, any largemouth tournament fishing?
And not really, you know, I'm at like the pinnacle of where I can go doing what I'm doing.
Well, you never thought, I mean, that might be like something, I don't know. I mean, you figured it out.
I think I have more to lose than I have to gain.
Yeah.
So you fished a couple tournaments. You know, I fished a 250 boat and a 350 boat tournament. And I finished second in one and eighth in the other. You know, I didn't get embarrassed. And that one tournament's actually, I had a corporate job and I had knee surgery and I went out and it was a skeeter here on Grand Lake. And I finished second, won $5,000, not life-changing money. And I got fired for working while on disability. So that's what, that's what started my fishing career, dude. Without that, I wouldn't be here. So thanks to the shitty company that fired me, like, screw those people, dude. I catch big bass. I win tournaments. I always send to my friend that still works there. And I'm like, show Sean, which is my old boss. I'm like, tell him to F himself, you know?
So what's the next plan? Like, do you have a plan as to How are you going to make your brand bigger? Something like
and
that.
focus on, catching big bass and trying to win some tournaments, crappie fishing.
Are you trying to travel to different lakes to catch these bass, or are you just working on the one you're at?
So I actually talked to the ODWC today, and I had it all wrote out and stuff. So I did the math. I'm traveling to different lakes. I've caught a 50-pound stringer on 2 different lakes, which is, I think, impressive. One of them was in Oklahoma. As far as I could find anywhere online or anywhere, it's the only time in history that's been done. I've caught a double digit on 9 different lakes. No, 10 different lakes. So I'm traveling around. I caught a couple on Allen Henry. I caught a couple on Fork, obviously Ivy, and then all around here at my house, I've just pounded them. But they were virgin fish. They were easy to catch, and I caught a lot of big bass. And it's not that easy now. And it's only been 2 years. And
Are you documenting, filming everything?
Not everything. I just started filming, last year.
So this is kind of all new to you somewhat.
Yeah.
The Instagram, everything.
The Instagram, yeah. I mean, new. Like, you can go on there. My wife used to do it all, and it wasn't growing. I had like 3,000 followers, which, hey, 3,000 is 3,000. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to take over. And now I just I don't even know what I'm doing. I just figured out how to check messages on it the other day. Like requests,
Yeah.
I didn't know there was an all requests under most requested or whatever, top requests. So I'm just learning the tagging and the sharing stuff, man. I have no idea.
Which is, hey, you're going to have to fucking learn all this if you want these sponsors, bro.
Well, I got 130K on Facebook.
That works too. But hey, Facebook's for fucking old guys, man.
Hey. But as far as the teaching goes, the old guys are the ones with the money.
Exactly.
But
I mean, that's a whole nother, I'm lost with the sponsorship thing. I think another thing that's going against everyone is COVID, because they don't need anyone to sell shit right now.
No.
It's selling itself. If you go to a tackle shop, it's hard in California to get a reel.
And yeah, they can't even get them from China. So it's like, we don't need you promoting it. We can't even.
So that's a whole nother issue. I'm probably within the next year, you're going to be having people banging down the door.
What about it being saturated? Is the fishing industry too saturated with people just promoting whatever they can for nothing?
How many people have caught the big fish you have? That many.
Well, I know, but.
So you caught a 17 this year, right?
No, that was one of my good friends.
Okay. Caught a 17. Only bigger fish I've seen caught is this one, 18 something. And that is Bass Jack. He caught that in NorCal. And that dude, he's not catching, he's grinding for that one big one, So, I mean, I can't see why it's oversaturated if you're catching big fish. To me, it's like.
So that's on a magical lake, and I'm not taking away from what he did, but it is a magical lake. My other buddy, Kyle Hawk, got a 16-pounder.
Yeah.
And I enough to kind of help these guys along the way in their journey to catch big bass. I'm not taking credit for what they did because they deserved what they got. And Brody, my buddy who caught the 17-pounder, I was actually calling him to order him lunch. And he told me, he's like, I'm going to go up this bank right here. Because I drew out a map and I said, go here, go here, go here. Well, he went to one of the spots I told him to go to, and he was done fishing it. He's like, I'm just going to go up this bank right here. And I said, don't go up that bank. It sucks. That was my words. He didn't listen. Were you
secretly saying, don't touch it? It's my water.
No, I really thought it sucked. So he went up that bank, and I called him to order him lunch. And I was on the phone. He's like, hold on, I got a big fish. And he had the phone up to his ear. And he said, big one. And he hooked it, and I'm hearing it. And then he dropped his phone, and I'm just hearing the struggle with him and his son. And they're like, oh my God, it's big. And it made a run. And he's like, oh my God. And then they netted it. And then he picked up the phone. He's like, this has got to be a share lunker. And he's never caught a double digit, right?
Can you talk about share lunker really quick? Because I'm not very familiar.
So program. It goes from January 1 to March 31st. If you catch a 13-pound largemouth, you can donate it to the state of Texas. State of Texas keeps it in its own little lunker bunker. They spawn that fish out when it's naturally ready. They take the eggs, they put them in their laboratory, they hatch the eggs, then they grow the eggs to be fingerlings, and then they release all the fingerlings back into the lake.
Dude, that's amazing.
And they release the bass into the lake. So it's literally the best program in the history of fishing. So it was a share. So a share lunker is like a prize, dude. It's like, that's all I ever wanted was a share lunker, you know, and it gets a lot of hate because a lot of people are uneducated and don't know what the hell they're talking about. So anyways, you want a share lunker, like a teener, you know, everyone wants a teener. So he's like, dude, it's got to be a share lunker. And I said, well, weigh it. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably like 12, 11. And he said 16.9 something. And I'm like, no, I'm like, I was on the phone. I said, re-zero it, you know, and he did. He's like 16.95. I'm like, dude, get your ass here now, like right now. Because I knew in my head there was only 6 fish over 17 pounds ever caught in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, come here right now. We might have a 17-pounder. And yeah, it was epic. So he donated that fish. And the program is really, that was one of the reasons I wanted to meet with Oklahoma and be like, hey, to implement one of these programs because it's so amazing. I don't know.
Your video dropped out.
Got a call. Sorry,
no problem.
Anyways, so to put it in perspective, in 2020, there was only 6 share lunkers caught. In 2021, there was 22 share lunkers caught by anglers. I caught 2 of them. And this year there was 24 caught by 23 anglers. I caught 2 more, not including the 15-pounder. So I went down as the only angler in history to catch 4, which is a huge like accomplishment. And I did it.
Resume. That's your line resume.
Yeah. And it happened in 13 months. Like it was the luckiest. It takes a lot of luck, dude. It's not just people think, oh, he's bad at. No, it's luck as well.
How much time are you putting though on the water when you're fishing for these things?
So the first time I went down this year to Texas, I fished 18 straight days, daylight till dark. Daylight when the sun was coming up until dark. And it took me 5 days to catch a share lunker. But how many
8s and 5s and did you catch during that time?
I don't even know.
Damn.
Probably not that many. This was back in this was in January. No, yeah, this was in January. Not that many. The second one I caught, I didn't catch that many either. So the first one I caught, it was the only fish I caught all day. Because I'm only throwing at big fish. The second one I caught 14.79. I was with my buddy Kyle who caught the 16. That was the only fish I caught in 2 days. You know?
Yeah.
But last year when we were catching them, it was just 8-pounder after 8-pounder after 8-pounder.
So you got to see the pressure kick in and kind of the lake get a little more sensitive.
Yeah, and everyone thinks it's easy, you know. 24 share lunkers out of millions of fishing licenses isn't great.
No.
And there was only 13 caught on the lake I was fishing. 2 of them are mine. One of them was one of my best friends, Brett. One of them was one of my best friends, Kyle. And the other one was Brody, one of my good friends. So we almost half of them caught.
That's crazy.
Just me and my buddies, you know. So
that's a great program, though. I mean, that's amazing. Like, if you could be done in other places, that'd be awesome. It's just
it could. If California could do it, it would be stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. And if they continue to do the trout. But it takes a lot of money, man. They have corporate sponsors. They have big money donors. And I get it. I get why other states don't want to do it. But, man, fishing, especially in Texas, is $1 billion industry, dude. Like let's make some money. Let's not just watch other people sit back and reap the benefits of hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, Oklahoma looked at me like I was stupid when I was trying.
What since we kind of talked about the A rig and that was your deal, what rod do you recommend from Dobbins that you like to use?
So I'm throwing a 794 mainly.
Okay.
So I've since started using a really, really light A rig, 1/8 heads with 5 arms. I'm throwing it on a 735 Fury because I'm not making super far casts. I'm kind of just pitching it. The medium rigs I'm throwing on that 794, which is my favorite, and the heavy ones with 3/8 heads that I'm fishing 40 foot deep, I'm throwing on a 795 Fury.
Okay.
Good price rods. 2 of them. The Champion's a little bit more, but the Champion you can throw deep diving cranks. You can throw the medium swim baits, the A rig. I mean,
when you go out though, are you you're not really changing baits up because you know what they want, right?
No, I'm not. And go, man, don't necessarily look at the videos from this year, but go to my Facebook, right? If you even have a Facebook.
Yeah.
And look at some old videos. Like I'm literally just pitching it. Some of them I'm pitching it 20 foot in front of the boat, like underhanding A rigs. I mean, it's wild. And that's how I was catching them on these crankbaits. I mean, really? I forgot about the deep diving cranks, dude. I smashed 8 pounds on that all summer. When the water got murky, you just pitch it out there and drop it right by his head and hang on, dude.
That live scope has got to be like a super game changer. I've seen it on one boat, never got to really mess with it.
Dude.
It's just, and I'm sure you have it locked now because you've been working with it for years.
Yeah. If you find someone that's better than I am at it, I would like to meet him. I've been using it for so many years, since 2015 when it first came out. And I was using the live scope until January of this year. And then I switched to Lowrance. And I'm loving.
You ever think about doing like a cool video, a YouTube video or something on how to use it?
No, because I just let people pay me,
It makes sense, right?
It's crazy. I've had people offer me $5,000 a day to go show them how to use it.
I mean, it's the truth. I mean, it's another tool. That's what I always think of as another tool. And it's crazy that, some of these dudes don't have it in their fishing tournaments. It's wild.
Yeah. And everyone's going to have it. And you can get your butt handed to you using it. Jacob Wheeler just lost his tournament the other day, Red Crest, because he was dedicated to the live sonar instead of just fishing.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And there's guys that don't have it that, like Matty Wong, did really good. And he had no fucking electronics.
I mean, yeah. I'll be honest with you. If I don't have it, I'm going to get my ass handed to me. I haven't thrown at the shore in years. I'm offshore, man. I stay offshore 99% of the time.
Just looking for structure.
Just looking for open water fish.
Yeah.
I mean, fish are just out roaming in the middle of nowhere, like legit middle of the lake.
Do you have to set up correctly to kind of hit them? Or do you just, if you see him coming up or you could see him and mark him, are you coming back around and looking for him?
You want to get to them before they get under the boat. The big bass, well, all bass for that matter, have a tendency to want to be under the boat. They see the shadow and here they come. So you got to get them before they get under the boat because they're going to realize something's wrong. And I think they're getting under the boat. I think they see the shadow and they're like, okay, bait fish. And then they come up and then they're like, okay, that's not bait. And then it's over. You're not going to be able to spook a big bass and then catch it. So you have to get that fish before it gets to the boat. So
you're casting, like you said, 20 feet out in front.
Well, now
so if they do come.
So now that's why I wanted you to look at those old videos. I was using a smaller screen. So now I'm using a 16-inch screen. So I'm throwing 70, 80, 90 foot.
Yeah, right. That's a big game changer, man, having that live scope and all the stuff. It's really cool. It's really cool seeing what you did as well. And man, if you come out to California, come out this way, we'll go Calico fish if you're down here.
I'm coming this winter. I'm gonna stay northern though.
It's not far. I mean, I'm going up to the Delta in 2 weeks. So I'm going to toxic baits, and then I'm having all kinds of guys come on.
Cool. Yeah, I plan on hitting Bullards, Berryessa, Clear Lake, Collins. There's several that I'm gonna fish.
You got to go talk to Paul Bailey on that one, the Clear Lake one with his A rigs.
Oh, really?
He's pretty locked. Yeah, he's got some nice A rigs too.
I mean, I can't wait to get out in the middle of that lake. I know nobody. I'm gonna go to the middle of that lake and hopefully find something.
They got big fish there, I'll tell you that. But yeah, I forgot. I think there's a record spotty out of there. That's what Paul Bailey had. I'm not sure what it was, but it's big.
Huh.
But yeah, there's some good fish. There's some sticks that live up that way too. Even with I'm not sure who guides Berryessa, but Josh Paris is another guy that's been killing it. He's been I think so, or New Melones. I'm not sure.
And I heard about that one's like 4 hours from where I'll be staying, or 3 on there. I mean, there's been like 17 pounders caught, 18.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a ton of good lakes around there. Just finding the right guys. I'm sure they'll point you in the right direction. But let's plug your sponsors and anywhere they can find you if people want to book a trip, anything like that.
Cool. Yeah. Josh Jones Fishing. I got a bigger following on Facebook. I'm not old, but that's where most of my videos go. I'm sponsored by Manor Ford dealership down the road, 6 Cents, Waterland Optics, Russell Marine, El Dorado, Kansas, Any Electronics. Those guys are geniuses. Dobbins, PhoenixStore.com, Phoenix Lights, Norfin. You guys don't need that, but it gets cold where I'm at. That winter gear straight out of Russia. I know Russia is probably a sore subject right now, but man, I hate doing this because I forget. Anyway, 6 Cents, Manor, Russell Marine, Dobbins. Those are the main ones. Well, I forget. I don't have anything to look at.
We'll tag him if you do think of anything, you text me and we'll tag him on the episode. I appreciate you taking your time out from the family to come on. Thanks, dude.
First podcast I was ever on, actually.
You've never been on a podcast before?
Dude, I get like tons of requests, but I'm just so busy. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to do one. No, this is the first one.
You're a natural, dude.
I'm going to have to start going on more. I don't know.
Hey, let me put this out first. Don't double dip on me. Let me get this one out first.
You're good. I mean, how long is this going to take?
This should be out, I think, in about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, I can probably wait, or I can tell them.
But I appreciate you coming on, dude. We're closed up already. It's done.